Go spend some time in prison until you purge yourself of the contempt. That's the message from a judge to Nigeria's Financial Crimes Chief Abdulrasheed Bawa. Nigeria Medical Association demands psychiatric tests for presidential and governorship candidates ahead of the country's elections. Tinubu is not fit medically to become president. Madi Show and Catch on Onuju. Also coming up on Politics HQ, economic crisis in Ghana as consumer inflation reaches a new high from 37.2% to 40% amid currency depreciation. And in Sudan, security forces fire tear gas at thousands of pro-democracy protesters in the capital, Khartoum. Tonight, my guest is Sam Ohuabunwa, convener, New Nigeria Group, and a former presidential aspirant. I'm Sulaiman Aledeh. Politics HQ starts after now. Well, it's Politics HQ coming to you live from Nigeria's economic capital, Lagos, and we're looking at so many issues, a plethora of them, as Nigeria prepares for the big moment 2023 election. And of course, people have been speaking, notably some of those who have actually dug in deep in politics and business, asking what the government and the people should be looking to doing at this point in time. Some have also said that the election campaigns must be issues-based and not about personalities. But as you've noticed on the HQ, we've seen banters and, of course, tantrums being thrown by political associates of candidates. But again, we're trying to actually make sense of what the conversation should be about. Joining me is Sam Ohuabunwa, and I like to call him Mazi Sam. He's a convener, New Nigeria Group, and a former presidential aspirant. Good to see you, and thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you, Sulaiman. It's my pleasure.
Well, quite a lot.
You're so grey now.
Going grey is one of the things that I know that you always wish for your children coming up. So it's a good thing that we're going grey. And quite frankly, I remember it was after your book launch. That should be almost 2 years ago now. You actually started talking about some of the key things we should be looking at as a people and as a country and for the continent. And I said, we should have Mazi Sam back again so that we'll start talking about it. It's amazing. First, let us in on your experience so far in politics, because you actually did quite a lot. People said, how is it that the good men don't get a chance in some of the, political journeys of our national life?
Yeah, thank you. For real, Nigeria's political evolution, it seems to have gone through some kind of stunted growth. What I mean is that there was a growth, but the growth was arrested. Because if you go to pre-independence and the First Republic, you could see some quality, some character, some value-driven politics, where you could say what each political aspirant candidate meant, what philosophy, what did they want. You could identify Awolowo's philosophy, you could identify Zig's philosophy, you could identify Aminu Kano. They had philosophy. And so you could have some bit of way of evaluating whether they are thriving in that way. But I believe that it was the entrance of the military that arrested our political development. And so in 1999, we had to start, and we started fairly on a very poor footing. And that's where we are just trying to get back. So Nigerian politics is today so predictable. You will have said it's unpredictable. It's predictable because politics has started, campaigns have started, but you're worried. what will make people choose a candidate. I mean, in 2019 and 2015, some people refused to talk even to anybody. They didn't appear on television, they didn't appear in debates, they shunned the media, yet they won election. Some people came to power, they denied the manifesto and whatever brought them to power, and yet they won a second term. So the predictability is that the values, the criteria for assessing political evolution, political sophistication, and importantly, achieving the political goals. Because the essence of politics, in my view, is to work to use the common and general resource that belongs to people to make their life better, to move the quality of life of the average citizen from where it is to a better place, to move his conditions from where he is to a better place. So it's not difficult to know, first, are we going to elect people based on what they have done or what they are promising to do? I would have thought that that's the issue. But as I said before, people go against the grain, do all the wrong things, and they get elected. Somebody is not physically okay. Somebody has records that are doubtful, records that people are checking out and there are issues. People have cases of corruption and so forth and so on. And yet, we would have thought that that would have meant something to people. And then others have very good records. They can speak well about the economy. They show competence, they show character, they show so much. And sometimes their chances are not as bright. So that's why I say it is negatively predictable. And that shows we really have a lot of work to do to get to the point where politics will be ennobling. And when people hear about politics and politicians, they're excited. Today, I can tell you that most Nigerians, when they hear politics and politicians, they're just sad.
I think it would be amazing when people say, when you say, well, it's predictable.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people would have said, no, it's unpredictable.
Yes.
And now your analysis has actually captured it,
yes,
quite frankly.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about your, assessment of our politics from 1999. I know you've talked about the arrested development caused by the military in Nigeria. And quickly, some of those, dust left by the military are still very much felt. For instance, you live in Lagos, you can still see people driving convoy and with someone waving a horse whip. And you say, wait a minute, this is a democracy. Who are you going to use this horse whip on? And quite a number of things that people still do. Now, this is 2023, and I've had conversations with quite a number of people. You also said something about the debate. We saw what happened in Kenya. The man who is in Kenya now as president, William Ruto, was the only one who came for the debate. And all those who didn't come for the debate
were punished.
Were punished. So let's look at the Kenya example and the Nigerian example. How can Nigeria, lean on what we saw in Kenya just some weeks ago?
Well, I think the hope we have, first is the political class need to go through a reorientation that enables them to communicate to the country and to the citizens the real reason they want to hold office. Because, when you come and make both those bland statements, our build road, our big bridges. I mean, I remember when they were asking me, you're not talking about building roads and bridges. I said, I'm not an engineer. I have come to lead. And I'm going to hire engineers that will build roads and bridges. There are central issues that motivate people to want to give power to you. And we can see that in terms of political sophistication, it looks like Kenya has moved ahead. And that's the shame, maybe because they didn't go through the length of military suppression of political activities as we have done. But the lessons there is first that Nigerian politicians need to wear a new garb. we also need to see something different in the horizon. Ruto, until he became a presidential candidate, I didn't hear much about him. Even though he was a vice presidential candidate, I didn't really, to be sincere, I mean, it was when he became aspirant that I knew he had something to offer. So that's newness. That's kind of new guys on the block, one. And also people that have some also history. I'm not Nigerian, so maybe I didn't know, but Kenya certainly knew who he was and what he could offer. So our politics must be such that we have people who have character, who have competence, who have good story to tell, and who also eschew those negative things that have seemed to describe politics. And I think it worked for Ruto as it's working for Kenya. And also the fact that the government in power, even though the president Kenyatta had his preferred candidate, but he was willing to subordinate that to the general choice of the people. So the voice of the people must carry. Dealing with issues is critical, and the issues are not I'm going to make water to fall, I'm going to make rain to fall, I'm going to give you all those things are not what the people are asking for. You need to know what people are asking for. Nigerians today are looking for a country they'll call their own.
A country
they'll call their own. That's the primary thing Nigerians are looking for. This country, many people do not belong, they are part of it. It belongs to them. They're either outsiders or people who are seeing themselves as observers. The country seems to be belonging to some people, some class. So the central issue is who is going to create a nation that will work for everybody? Who is going to create a nation where the guy in Maiduguri, the guy in Zamfara, the guy in Bayelsa, the guy in Borno, the guy in Benue, the guy in Enugu, if you talk about this country, they are proud. They say, I'm a Nigerian.
Was there ever a time it was?
There was. I can tell you, in Independence Day, I was standing at the field. All of us, I was a 10-year-old guy, carrying my cup, my flag. We marched, we were fed. I got home that evening. My father and his friends organized a party on Independence Day, and they were talking about Nigeria as a country that's going to become the leader of Africa, the leader of the world. They spoke my patriotic zeals about this country were built then. And I saw a country that took care. I left my home in Port Harcourt and rode in a train to Kano, to Kaduna. Yes, and nobody, I didn't go with a father, I didn't go with a mother. I was just by myself, 10, 12, 14-year-old. There was no fear. In fact, I'm asking, how did my parents even know that I had arrived? I would go around and I come home. The day I was driving, going to school, and my uncle gave me a lift, and I jammed my hand, the door against my hand, and I got a wound. He drove me straight to a health center. I was treated, and I came back to school. Every day I went to the health center, I was treated, and I came. The day I didn't come, the dispenser, what was called, came looking for me, that I didn't come to take my medication.
Yeah, for your medication.
Until after the war, I'd never been to a hospital. I never knew where a hospital existed. I'd never been to a pharmacy until after the war. All the places I went was to my health center. And I got everything I needed. I didn't need admission. So today, how many Nigerians have access to health care? How many Nigerians can enter a train and go to Kano? How many Nigerians can sleep and have quality sleep? When Nigeria was, there was ECN, Electric Corporation of Nigeria. I lived in Enugu. We had 24-hour electricity. We never knew this power cut never existed. And yeah, we're using coal and generating power from Oji River, and it was supplied. So in terms of infrastructure, in terms of quality of life, yes, we didn't have skyscrapers. Yes, we may not have had too many big, but the roads were clean, they were maintained. In every few kilometers, you saw the men they call PWD, Public Works Department. They are mending the road. Remember, there's a little pothole, they mend it. Today, Nigeria will spend millions of naira or billions to do a road. There'll be a crack, they watch it until it becomes a crater. Then they award a new contract. But meanwhile, they've disrupted business. So my essence is that the quality of life of the Nigerian, average Nigerian, I'm not talking about the upper class that are alienated and sometimes completely unfeeling, because they don't feel what we feel. Yeah. Our leaders are in a different world, especially our political leaders. I'm not kidding, because I know I went around this country when I was trying to run for office.
Because I was going to ask about your experience going around Nigeria, because that was some journey and experience for you.
It was. I went around the country more than twice to the 36 states of Nigeria, plus Abuja, and I did most of the journey on road because I didn't have money to hire aeroplanes and jets, and so I did them on road. So today I can tell you, if you ask me how is the road between Taraba and Adamawa, or between Gombe and Bauchi, I can tell you or even from Borno to Yobe, I traveled on roads. And I met ordinary Nigerians and their folks. And everybody is complaining of quality of life. Not just, security is part of it, or the insecurity, but access to mobility, access to good housing, access to potable water, access to electricity, access to primary health care.
The issues here, sorry to cut you here, the issues, some of the key concern now is that if Nigerians, because for some very senior citizens like yourself, recanting, reminiscing, letting us know that there was indeed a country. There was indeed a Nigeria. Yeah. Now, because that was why I had to repeat that with you. I said, by train. And you said, yes, by train. Yeah. And you also spoke about the PWD. For those who live in Lagos, they just know the PWD as a mere bus stop, not knowing that it was a company that was inexistent, fixing, some of these key, infrastructure for us. Now, take us through why you think Nigerians are also still not getting it right. I had a conversation with some few persons on the show asking, why is it that every now and then we have this groundswell of some seeming maybe pseudo-awareness, but on election day, the same man or woman that you thought would ordinarily go all out and cast his or her ballot perhaps will stay indoors?
Well, two things. First is that, people react to experience. If you're like me, who has voted in several political circles, the reason why I decided to go into competitive politics was I was tired. I've been advocacy all my life, chairman of Nigerian Economic Summit Group, president of Nigerian Employers NECA, chairman of Manufacturers Association, Ikeja. I have led all private. I have seen every president. I have visited every permanent secretary, every SGF, making cases, building scenarios for accelerated development and ensuring that we have a private sector-led growth. And it's not happening. So it gets to the point where you get frustrated. I decided I was going to jump into the ring and go get the job done, or I stopped complaining. Now, many Nigerians from their experience have gone through electoral circles and they didn't see any significant change. Number two, of course and I wouldn't be the first person to say it, Nigerians have never had what they could call a truly free and fair election. Truly. They've been relative, some are best, some are better, some are worse. I mean, of course, if an election held and 80% of the people felt the result was okay, then it's a good result. But people in the locality will just say, Well, whatever we do, they will make their choice. That's why some people are running away. Number two is the influence of the three other variables. One is ethnicity, two is religion, and the third is money.
Money?
Yeah, money. Ethnicity, Nigerians are still very ethnic, no matter how they pretend not to. If they had a choice, they would look for somebody from their ethnic enclave. I'm saying majority of Nigerians. Two, the issue of religion, even though it was never a major issue in Nigeria, it's just coming, and it's this government that has worsened it. You know, in fact, both ethnicity and religion, is this present government has opened it and made it clear that if you belong to a particular religion, you are safe from certain things, you are less exposed to other things, and if you keep, so those two factors. But I have always said that even though those two variables exist, the overriding variable is money. If you have enough money, it will override ethnicity, override religion, and people will just choose candidates based on money. And not only was this money in terms of using it to buy votes, but it's also using to buy the regulatory agencies. Yeah, buying INEC was a standard. People would not bother with what you're doing. They go and buy INEC because they will collect the results. I've seen it happen. I remember with one election, my brother was involved in the election. I saw evil being done. I called everybody, you know, even INEC people. They were like helpless. So if you see all those, you will not therefore be very, very positive or enthusiastic. However, I want to thank, when you say people have done bad things, also the good things they've done. I want to thank the National Assembly and this government for at least giving us a new electoral law. That electoral law is the hope of Nigerians, that their votes will count. The day votes of Nigerians begin to count, then that's the day our change will begin to happen. However, part of the reason we haven't made enough progress is lack of demand for good governance. Holding our political office holders accountable. Again, how would you hold them accountable? It's like a catch, what do they say?
22 situation.
Catch 22 situation. Because how do you hold people accountable is vote them out. But if you vote them and they still vote themselves back, what would you do? You just resign. You know, so we're hoping that this new electoral law that is about to guarantee that votes count will be the changer. It will show a significant change in our political evolution and history. After 2023, two things will happen. First is, I believe we'll have the government we voted for. But if we don't have the government we voted for, I believe that we've gone to a level where people are going to be more demanding, asking more questions. People are going to go to the roads.
You're not talking about asking more questions. Let's take a moment. We'll come back. Okay. And when we return here on the HQ, we'll be asking Mazis Sam about business, because quite a number is happening in Nigeria. He has been in the manufacturing sector in Nigeria, and once upon a time, president of the Pharmaceutical Society of the country. Is it still working for this group of persons? That's when we come back. Well, if you just joined us, you're welcome. You're watching Politics HQ here on News Center Television, broadcasting to 54 African countries and beyond. And my guest today is Mazis Sam Ohuabunwa. He's convener of New Nigeria Group and a former presidential aspirant, and of course also a former president of Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. Good to see you, because you know, let's look at the business space economy. Just on the headline, we saw Ghana getting into an all-time low, and a whole lot happening in, you know, quite, you know, these two brother countries or sister countries, as they will say. Now, in Nigeria, we also have the issues of forex. We also have pharmaceutical companies closing up in Nigeria. And give us a sense of what's happening in the business space, especially if we can start from your own side, talking about pharmaceutical business.
Yeah. Well, the truth of the matter is that the political environment, the environment determines what happens to any business. That's why somebody said politics is too important to be left to politicians, because that's what decides what's going on. All the wrong policies that have been applied in this nation that are affecting our economy, it's all government. Take the issue of extraordinary borrowing that is causing problems. Take the issue of utilizing a sizable portion, in fact, up to 100% of our revenue to pay debt. And even when you look at our budgets, capital versus recurrent, the recurrent is almost eating up the entire budget. So those kind of policies affect the economic environment. Secondly, the enabling the ability of that environment to be competitive, to allow investments to flow, because the economy is run by investment inflow. And Nigeria has been, in last couple of years, facing a high level of poor accretion of foreign capital, either as foreign direct capital or through repatriation or through home remittances, or through pure capital acquisition. We have been falling because the environment is not conducive, not protective. So the reason that capital inflow has declined has affected cost of production, cost of business. Inflation is high. Then because we're not producing enough, we're not selling enough, we're not attracting both capital and foreign investment, our exchange rate has gone. And because of the structure of our manufacturing, that most of our raw materials are imported. So we are importing raw materials from outside using high exchange rate at high inflation. So they arrive in the country, they are uncompetitive because we operate in a WTO global economy where Chinese products, Indian products, British products are still coming to the country. So when you make a product and it's more expensive than a foreign product, and on top of that, the Nigerian consumer has a low per capita income, low purchasing power. What does he do? He buys the cheaper option. And the moment he buys the cheaper option, that encourages more importation and discourages more local production. That's why plants close. Look, Nigeria is tough. I'll give you one example. It's tough. It's tough to do business. In fact, we don't have the reason why people are dying. Many people who are in business have died, especially manufacturing. You may not know because there's no autopsy. I'll give you one little example now. In 2020, during the COVID, many companies, especially the pharmaceutical industry, who made a case. I was president of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, and everybody saw that there was a need to grow local production because we're almost being asked to use products made in Madagascar, a herbal product. It was imported, given to Nigeria. They welcomed it and wanted to give it to us. Nigerian scientists. That was during COVID. The COVID rose against it. This kind of thing we can do here. Why do we go to Madagascar to bring that concussion? The government said, okay, CBN agreed we should give money to the industry. They did 100 billion special funding for pharmaceutical industry. I know a company that got 2 billion naira. That was the maximum they're using. 2020. And out of the 2 billion naira, about 1.5, or even that more than the 2 billion naira was actually to fund plant construction or plant upgrade. and everything that was needed to be imported. $2 billion, as I speak to you today, that company has not been able to raise enough foreign exchange to buy the items. In the interim, exchange rate has gone from, was it at least at the bucket, then unofficial, official was maybe 200 or 300 to almost 500, and you can get it. CBN says don't go to the black market, go to our in-window, you get nothing. You can stay for 5 years, for 2 years, from 2020 to now. Many companies that received that money have not been able to transfer them into foreign exchange to be able to import. So they've lost the depreciation abroad. If you took 2 billion and you said you were going to buy maybe 1 million naira, $1 million, now that 2 billion can buy you half of that. Then secondly, inflation. If inflation was maybe 11, 12%, now it's 20-something%. So you can't buy the items. You can't even get them on time. There was a moratorium for 1 year before you start paying back. By 2 years, 3 years, you haven't been able to place the order because of no foreign exchange allocation, or little in comparison to what you need. And I'm saying, if this country means well, by the time we submitted the application to the CBN, we told them what we want to do with the money. Why didn't they give us open LCs for us so that we can import the raw material? Why give it to us in naira? And we come through an excruciating, painful effort to go and get dollar again. And you go to the CBN window, you don't get anything significant. You go to the black market. Today, you settle with somebody who's going to give you a parallel market, either export or overseas. Tomorrow, the person changes the rate. Why? The rate has changed. You know, I used to tell you that that's why I read your column every day. You know, the rate has changed because we're monitoring this to be able to see how much pain, how much risk we are carrying.
You know, because talking about the risk, now this again comes back to politics and decisions and, you know, policy of government. Some have said perhaps Nigeria should start looking to, you know, changing its policy of looking towards a dollar, you know, economy, because even right here in Nigeria, some government officials also deal in, you know, using dollars. And they're looking at what's happening in Russia now that the Ukraine-Russia war, Putin is saying that whatever business you're going to do with us, you have to use our currency. Do you think if the manufacturing business, you know, or sector in Nigeria were to be, you know, sustained, Nigeria would have been in this logjam it is? Because look at India. Almost every medication you see today in Nigeria that you and your colleagues once upon a time could manufacture here in Nigeria coming from the Asian country.
You know, the truth of the matter is that we have poor understanding of how to create global competitiveness. The moment you are not globally competitive, you'll be at the receiving end. That's the way. It's like water flowing down the hill. The man who is globally competitive will manufacture at cheaper price, and you have to buy. You can't sell more. Why are we not exporting? How can somebody can buy something from China in Ghana or in Cote d'Ivoire at equivalent of $1, which is what it is in Nigeria at whatever market. Why would he now want to pay your own that is equivalent of $3? Are you getting it? So, and two, we are in an economy being managed by people who don't seem to understand how wealth is created. What's the basis of economic power? What's the basis of the strength of the dollar? What is the basis of poverty? What's the basis of wealth? And I have said this, and every day we see the signs. The signs is that Nobody's spending enough time to promote investment. Sulaiman, if you have any work to do as the president of this country, please spend it attracting investment in Nigeria, both foreign investment and then promoting local investment. See, today we're applauding somebody like Dangote. Why we're applauding him? He's making investment. It is this investment he's using to create businesses. Dangote this, Dangote that. Those businesses are now creating jobs, hiring people. And those people that have been hiring are creating wealth. And the wealth is now driving away poverty and creating prosperity. Get this clear. It's a straight line direction. So if I'm president, I will not sleep without ensuring that today, how much investment has Nigeria? Government spending cannot change Nigeria's situation. So it is this investment that produces products. And it is the product that you sell, then you generate foreign exchange that boosts your foreign reserves, boosts the value of your local currency.
You know, it comes back to politics, and now we're looking at the president's men. Do you think the president has in his team experts that can actually rejig what you just highlighted?
There may be, but the environment does not promote it. The other day, the Minister of Finance said, they are trying to change money. I don't even know. Somebody said, I don't need to tell you. In a government, a finance minister does not know that you're going to do a major thing that affects both fiscal and monetary policy. You say he shouldn't know. You don't have because you've talked to a president. Which kind of managing economy is this? Look, that is the symptom of what we have. Our economy is poorly run, poorly managed, poorly coordinated. And if you are the finance minister, see the way she was flogged, what would you do after that? If it was in a country where people could take their decision, she would resign. But because of the constraints, because if you resign, you become an enemy. They go after you. As long as you are there, you're covered. So any day you leave because you are angry, then you become an enemy. So that's why she's staying there. You have killed her initiative. When a minister said, I'm not aware. And you say she doesn't need to be aware. No. If she was the greatest expert in the world, what else would she do? She will recoil to her space so that she doesn't get more abuse by people who are say they work in the same government. You know, it's such a painful thing for our country that we have an economy. We may have good people, you know, in government, but the environment does not allow for intellectual capacity or for people with the right ideas to get them implemented. So some are just hanging on there to take care of themselves. Some are hiding from, to don't want anybody to investigate them. Because the moment you become enemy of government, that's the day they will remember anything you've done. When you're a friend, they cover you. So it gets to that level. So that's part of the problem. It's not only we may not have all the expertise we need, but I think we have some. But those some are not being, then those who are not doing well are being retained. What is going on in the economy? Look at the way Naira is being managed. Those policies that we have seen that have measured around monetary policies have not done us well. How do you measure success, Sulaiman? If I give you a job, how do I measure your success? If you are a good central bank management, how do I measure your success? I measure your success in inflation rate. I measure your success in interest rate. I measure your success in value of the currency. Now tell me which of this one we have been successful at. And yet we retain the job. If there's a third or fourth time, we'll give you. So we may have good people, we may have not good people, but even the few good people do not have the right motivation. What they did to that Minister of Finance, I worked for her. Of course, she can't be like me, because if it's me, I'll throw the towel and leave. And I'm ready to face the consequences. But she's not of the same temperament with me, so she's willing to take that bush.
We have a lot on the plate, but before we talk about, we'll close by just seeing how you can actually go around and tell Nigerians what they should be looking out for in the next man. Ordinarily I would have said the next man or woman, but there's no, there's no female candidate in this election. Yeah. The next man that will rule that will become president, but not after we talk about education. Okay. You're one of the finest, Nigerians, a senior citizen at the moment, and you started from Nigeria. When you look back, what do you think about Nigeria's, education sector?
Sulaiman, in 1986, I was group sales manager for Pfizer. And I attended an international sales managers meeting in New York, where about 106 sales managers that came. At the end of that one-week program, I was nominated the best participating sales manager. As we went on break, tea break immediately after the announcement. 86. As we went on tea break, now people came to, greet me. Out of 106 people, one little black boy from one place called Nigeria was, so they came to greet me. Hey, Sam, which university did you attend? Of course, they were expecting me to say Harvard or Princeton. I said, I went to University of Ife. They say, University of where? I said, University of Ife. They say, where is that one? I said, it's in Nigeria. He said, wow, do you have good universities in Nigeria? I said, man, we have University of Ibadan, University of Lagos, University of Benin, ABU. I began to name them. He said, Sam, then there must be smart guys like you in Nigeria. I say, millions of smart guys. Of course, the other questions they asked me, I'm not going to say, but they said, so what I'm saying is, I only did a postgraduate in Colombia, but my primary, secondary education, tertiary came here. All I am is Nigerian made, fully Nigerian made. I had good education from primary to, but it's not happening today. And that is because we also have managers, some of them do not understand the impact of education. The quality of the manpower. Manpower is the material substrate you need to drive an economy. Everything else, machinery, equipment, technology, depend on manpower. And the more sophisticated and expert your manpower is, the better they are to drive your economy. Even export of manpower alone can give Nigeria money. That's what India lives on. And many countries live on exporting their manpower. The Fortune 500 companies in the US are today run by mostly Indian Americans, because India has education enough for its domestic and then allowing others to go abroad. Nigeria ought to be doing that. Of course, we're doing that by default. Those who jackpot, then suddenly they shine. But suppose you had a policy that ensure we had good education and then we took people out. I look at what Nigeria is doing to ASU. The way we have handled ASU over the years have been so poor, but this time was the poorest. Not only have we handled them poorly to keep them back, we've gotten to a level where we're insulting them, we're provoking them. We want ASU to go back on strike. That's what by this recent pro rata payment of 1 month salary, you haven't paid 7 months, and you don't care how they will survive. You don't care about their motivation and morality. How can people teach and teach well, or do research and do when they have no food, they are owing? Some professors are 2 professors from a family, husband and wife. They haven't been to work for, or they haven't earned salary for 8 months. They start, you pay them pro rata. It's very, very provocative, it's insulting. It shows that our education managers have no love for the Nigerian student. Because you can force a horse to the river. Can you force him to drink? The lecturers can sit in the class and they teach nothing, or they teach nonsense. Because they are not happy. You must be happy, you must be motivated to be able to teach, if they understand what teaching is all about. It's not mechanical work, it's intellectual. And then your spirit and moral base must be in good shape. It's a way we're destroying our education. Our educational system is spoiled. Now, the issue of what should I tell Nigerians to look for? I do not think, in my estimate, that Nigerians, in my life, that we have a better opportunity to elect the right people to lead Nigeria now. I don't think we've had a better opportunity based on the promises and also what we've seen in Osun and Ekiti. That is true, that to a large extent, our votes will count. And if that is true, then every Nigerian first must make sure they go to vote. Secondly, when you want to vote, please do not think of ethnicity. Do not think of religion. Do not be influenced by money. Ask yourself, which of these leaders has enough experience, has enough competence, has the right character, and has the right understanding of what it is to run not only a multi-ethnic nation that we have, but also a country with a very high population and high underdevelopment and high unemployment. Which of these candidates will build a united Nigeria, not a divided Nigeria, will create an enabling environment for the economy to thrive, will make Nigerians feel like they own this country, not owned by any other person, will create equal opportunities for each section of the country to prosper. And of course, will treat Nigerians as friends and brothers. Because sometimes our leaders have treated us as if we're aliens or even enemies of state. The way they talk to us, the way they address us, you write them letters, they do not reply. You make comments, you are ignored. You are killed by floods, they don't care. You are killed by armed robbers and kidnappers. They tell you bring 100 million, you go and start bringing 100 million in a country and you give to robbers and they help you to even facilitate sending the money. No, this country must move away from this. And we must look for somebody who has the right experience, the right competence, the right character to be able to take our country out of merry play. Let us be sure that when the result comes out, we shall say, I contributed to this result, not anybody else. I am also hoping that money will not be an issue. Please, if you take money to vote, you've sold your conscience and you've sold your future. If you have no future, you've sold the future of your children. So we shouldn't come out in 2023 to blame anybody. We should blame ourselves if we make the wrong choices.
I like the sound bite. If you have no future, but at least your generation, they have a future.
Sure.
Don't sell it.
That's it.
Well, it's a fine place for us to say many thanks for being such a nice company, Mazi Sam Ohuabunwa. Thank you for coming, and we do hope that we'll have time to talk more about some of these key national issues. You've taken us back in time to talk about education, and well, it's really, really a pain to see what Nigeria is going through. As always, Mazi Sam, thank you for your time. Mazi Sam Ohuabunwa has been speaking with us. He's the convener of the New Nigeria Group. I was going to ask quickly, what's about New Nigeria Group?
The New Nigeria Group is
a
socio-political organization that is pushing for the emergence of a new Nigeria. A new Nigeria that when you see it, you will know it. And there are two things that will make you know that we're a new Nigeria. First, we have become globally competitive. So things are coming to Nigeria, not just going out. Because it's when we are globally competitive, things will start coming. And that will lead to our productivity increase, accretion of foreign exchange, and we'll become competitive. Our dollar, our naira will improve, unemployment will go. That is globally competitive. And eventually to emerge as a first world. Sulaiman, since I was born, this country has been called a third world country, a developing country. We have been developing, we never get developed. Some countries we started as third world are now first world. We want Nigeria to be a first world nation. That's our ambition. Then second element, to know we have arrived at New Nigeria, when Sulaiman will come to Lagos and then he is seen as a bona fide citizen of Nigeria. Whatever anybody gets in Lagos, you get. If you go to Abia, my state, wherever you come from, whatever the sound of your name, whatever your religion, you can get to Abia, fulfill the obligations, and you become known as a Nigerian who lives in Abia.
And it's possible.
It's possible because it's happened in America. It's happened in other countries in the world. Multi-ethnic, multi-religion, yet they are Americans.
Thank you very much for your time. We'll take a moment. When we come back, we'll give you something to chew on. Well, it's the cut. Europe and the rest of the world should stop spoon-feeding Africa as a means to dominate her. Yes, it sounds somehow to some, but it is what it is. Africa can feed herself, cater for herself, build herself, but only when left alone by the richer nations of the world and when the people ask those that they have so elected to account for what they have done with their resources. Britain's COP27 fund to Africa is good news to leaders on the continent, but it's bad news to the future of a blessed, rich, but restricted region. Corruption and leadership failures have pegged Africa back, and the continent continues to struggle to be independent despite its enormous blessings. Africa's dependence on the West for survival will only limit her growth and make it subservient to regions it can stand up with or even do better. The world should leave Africa alone. Leave her resources alone, stop feeding her with the breadcrumbs and watch her grow and surpass expectations. And Africans must also ask questions of its leaders to ensuring that its commonwealth are protected. That's the cut on the HQ. I'm Sulaiman. Many thanks for watching. Bye-bye.